The sacrifice of promise. It was an ancient time in the shadowed hills of Ramah, where barren land mirrored the barren womb of a woman named Hannah. She was a woman of deep faith, but lived under the weight of unfulfilled dreams. Her heart ached for a child, a son, to carry her name, her prayers, her legacy. Yet, year after year, her womb remained empty, and her rival, Peninnah, never missed a moment to remind her of it. Every insult was a dagger, every mockery a slow burn. And though her husband, Elkanah, loved her deeply, his comfort could not soothe her grief. In the stillness of the night, Hannah would find herself wandering the edges of her mind, lost in prayers. There was an agony in her that words could not express, a pain too deep for language. So she wept, not with tears, but with a soundless cry, her soul calling out to the God she had known since childhood. She wondered if her prayers were heard, or if the heavens themselves had turned their back on her. The annual pilgrimage to Shiloh had come once again, and Elkanah prepared his family to offer sacrifices to the Lord. Shiloh, the dwelling place of the Ark of the Covenant, was a place of worship, hope, and for Hannah, this year, one final desperate plea. As they journeyed, the weight in her heart grew heavier with each step. The temple loomed on the horizon, and with it, the echoes of her unanswered prayers. Inside the sacred walls of Shiloh, Hannah knelt in the temple, her lips moving but no sound escaping. She was locked in a private communion with God, a space where no one could follow.
O Lord of hosts,
she whispered in the silence of her heart,
if you will indeed look on the affliction of your servant and remember me, and give your servant a son, then I will give him to the Lord all the days of his life, and no razor shall touch his head.
The vow was sacred, uttered in the depths of despair. It was her final offering. Unbeknownst to her, Eli, the high priest of Shiloh, had been observing her. Her silent lips and tear-streaked face made him think she was drunk, lost in some inebriated state. He approached her with stern rebuke. "How long will you go on being drunk? Put away your wine." Hannah looked up, startled by the accusation.
No, my lord,
she replied.
I am a woman troubled in spirit. I have drunk neither wine nor strong drink, but I have been pouring out my soul before the Lord.
Her voice trembling. Eli's stern gaze softened. He realized that what he had witnessed was not drunkenness, but the raw cry of a heart broken in prayer. He reached out his hand and spoke with authority. "Go in peace, and the God of Israel grant your petition that you have made to him." Hannah's heart swelled with hope as she rose from the temple floor, and for the first time in years, she felt peace settle in her soul. She returned to Elkanah, her face lifted, no longer downcast. The months passed, and as Hannah continued her life in Ramah, her hope began to take form. She felt the stirring inside her, the flutter of life growing. She was with child, her vow to God not forgotten. With each day, her heart filled with the knowledge that this was no ordinary child. This was a son promised by God himself, a child born of tears, prayers, and faith. In the warmth of her home, Hannah gave birth to a son. His cries filled the room, but in Hannah's heart, there was only quiet reverence. She named him Samuel, meaning God has heard, for he was the answer to her cries, the fulfillment of her desperate pleas. The child was her joy, but her vow to the Lord echoed in her heart, ever present. When Samuel was weaned, Hannah knew what must come next. She journeyed once more to Shiloh, not for herself this time, but for her son. Holding him close, she stood before Eli. With a steady voice, she spoke.
For this child I prayed, and the Lord has granted me what I asked of him. Therefore I have lent him to the Lord. As long as he lives, he is lent to the Lord.
As Samuel grew under the care of Eli, the temple became his home. But there was something different about this boy. Even as a child, there was a quiet strength within him, a sense of purpose that seemed to have been woven into his very being. He served faithfully, but little did he know that the God who had given him life was about to call him into a destiny far greater than any could imagine. One night, as the lamps burned low and the temple lay still, Samuel lay in his bed wrapped in the quiet of the evening. Suddenly, a voice broke the silence. "Samuel!" Startled, Samuel rose and ran to Eli's side, thinking the priest had called him.
"Here I am, for you called me,"
he said, but Eli shook his head, groggy from sleep. "I did not call. Lie down again," he said. Confused, Samuel returned to his bed, but the voice came again, clear as before. "Samuel!" Again the boy ran to Eli, but the priest had not called him. A third time the voice called, and once more Samuel found himself at Eli's side. Only then did Eli realize what was happening. "Go, lie down," Eli instructed, "and if he calls you again, say, 'Speak, Lord, for your servant is listening.'" Samuel returned to his bed, heart pounding in his chest. The voice came once more, but this time Samuel was ready.
"Speak, Lord, for your servant is..."
And the Lord spoke to Samuel, not as a distant God, but as one who was close, who knew the heart of the boy who had been dedicated to him. The message Samuel received was weighty, filled with judgment upon Eli's household for the sins of his sons, Hophni and Phinehas. It was a prophecy that would bring about a great reckoning. When the morning light broke, Samuel was heavy with the knowledge of what he had heard. Eli, sensing the weight on the boy's heart, pressed him to reveal what the Lord had spoken. With a trembling voice, Samuel told Eli everything: the coming judgment, the fall of his family, and though the news was bitter, Eli accepted it with a resigned heart. "It is the Lord. Let him do what seems good to him." The Lord was with Samuel as he grew, and none of his words fell to the ground. All of Israel, from Dan to Beersheba, knew that Samuel was established as a prophet of the Lord. He walked in the power of God, and the voice that had once been silent in Israel now spoke through the young prophet. But as Samuel rose in favor, the sons of Eli, Hophni and Phinehas, continued in their wickedness. They stole from the sacrifices, corrupted the holy offerings, and led the people astray. Their sins were a stench before the Lord, and though Eli rebuked them, it was too late. The house of Eli was marked for destruction. The Philistines, Israel's ancient enemies, gathered for war. The two nations met at Aphek, and the battle was fierce. But the unthinkable happened. The Israelites were defeated, and 4,000 men fell that day. In their desperation, the elders of Israel sought a solution. They would bring the Ark of the Covenant from Shiloh to the battlefield, believing that its presence would guarantee victory. The Ark was brought into the camp, carried by none other than Hophni and Phinehas. As it arrived, the ground shook with the roar of the Israelite army. They believed they were invincible, that the Ark would bring them victory as it had in the days of Joshua. But they did not know that the sins of Eli's sons had sealed their fate. The battle resumed, but this time the defeat was catastrophic. 30,000 Israelites fell, and worse yet, the Ark of the Covenant was captured. The symbol of God's presence, the very heart of Israel's faith, was now in the hands of their enemies. Hophni and Phinehas were slain, and a messenger raced back to Shiloh with the dreadful news. When the old priest Eli heard the news, it was not the death of his sons that broke him, but the capture of the Ark. He fell backward from his seat, struck dead on the spot. The glory of Israel had departed. Phinehas's wife, heavy with child, heard the news and went into labor. She gave birth to a son and named him Ichabod, meaning, "The glory has departed from Israel." As she breathed her last, the weight of the prophecy given to Samuel hung over the nation. The ark, now in the hands of the Philistines, was taken to the temple of Dagon, their god. But something strange began to happen. The idol of Dagon fell before the ark, broken and shattered. Plagues spread through the Philistine cities, and terror gripped their hearts. The Philistines were at a loss. They could not keep the ark, yet they feared returning it. It brought curses upon them, and they sought a way to rid themselves of it without further angering the God of Israel. They sent it back with offerings of gold, praying that the plagues would cease. The ark was returned to Israel, and the people rejoiced, but the nation was not yet healed. Samuel gathered the people at Mizpah for repentance, for they had turned away from God. With fasting and prayers, they sought the Lord's favor once more. But even as they prayed, the Philistines prepared for another attack. The people trembled, for they were unarmed and vulnerable. They cried out to Samuel, "Do not cease to cry out to the Lord our God for us, that he may save us from the hand of the Philistines." Samuel offered a lamb as a burnt offering, and as the smoke rose to heaven, the Lord thundered from the skies. The Philistines were thrown into confusion, and the Israelites pursued them, winning a decisive victory. Samuel set up a stone and called it Ebenezer, meaning, "Thus far the Lord has helped us." The land was at peace once more, and the Philistines were subdued. But as the years passed and Samuel grew old, the people became restless. They saw the nations around them, ruled by kings, and they desired the same. "Give us a king to judge us," they demanded, tired of the judges and longing for a monarchy. Samuel was grieved, for he knew their hearts had turned away from God as their true king. Samuel prayed, and the Lord spoke to him. "They have not rejected you, but they have rejected me from being king over them. Warn them of the ways of the king who shall reign over them." And so Samuel did, telling the people of the tyranny, the taxes, the wars that would come under a king's rule. But the people would not listen. In a distant land, a young man named Saul tended to his father's donkeys, unaware that his life was about to change forever. God had chosen him to be Israel's first king, but neither Saul nor Samuel knew the full weight of what was to come. A storm was brewing, and the winds of change were stirring across the land. The monarchy was about to rise, but with it, a shadow would fall over Israel, one that would test the hearts of kings and prophets alike. The stage was set, but the outcome was far from certain. The sun had barely risen over the hills of Ramah when Samuel, the aging prophet, awoke with a start. A voice echoed in his mind, a voice he had known since childhood, a voice that had guided his every step. The Lord spoke to Samuel once more, sending him on a mission that would change the course of Israel's history. Samuel's heart pounded as he donned his simple robe and took his staff. The time had come to anoint a king, but not the one the people had expected. He knew Saul, the tall and handsome son of Kish, would soon cross his path, unaware of the destiny awaiting him. The prophet left his home, his mind swirling with the weight of what was to come. Saul, unaware of the divine plan unfolding, set out from his home in Gibeah on a seemingly mundane task. His father's donkeys had gone missing, and Saul, accompanied by a servant, was tasked with finding them. The journey took them through the hills and valleys of Ephraim, into the land of Shalisha and beyond. But the donkeys remained elusive. As the days wore on, Saul grew weary and suggested they return home before his father started to worry. But the servant, with a spark of intuition, suggested they seek out the man of God in the nearby town of Ramah. "Perhaps he can tell us where to find the donkeys," the servant said, unknowingly guiding Saul toward his destiny. Samuel, standing at the town's gate, gazed into the distance as the Lord whispered to him, "Behold, the man whom I spoke to you about. He shall rule over my people." As Saul approached, Samuel's heart raced, not with fear, but with a deep sense of purpose. Saul greeted the prophet with humility, asking, "Please tell me where the seer's house is." Samuel smiled, knowing the young man standing before him was the future king. "I am the seer," he replied. "Go up before me to the high place, for you shall eat with me today, and in the morning I will tell you all that is on your heart." Saul was puzzled, but followed Samuel. As they shared a meal, the prophet spoke words that would forever change Saul's life. "The donkeys you sought have been found," Samuel said, his eyes piercing through Saul's soul. "But for whom is all the desire of Israel? Is it not for you and for all your father's house?" Early the next morning, as the first light of dawn broke over the hills, Samuel led Saul to a secluded place. The air was thick with anticipation as the prophet poured oil from a flask onto Saul's head, anointing him in the name of the Lord. "Has not the Lord anointed you ruler over his inheritance?" Samuel declared. A rush of emotions flooded Saul's mind: fear, doubt, and a strange sense of destiny. Samuel spoke of signs that would confirm the anointing: encounters with men by Rachel's tomb, a gift of bread, and a band of prophets. "The Spirit of the Lord will come upon you," Samuel said, "and you will be changed into a different person." Saul's heart pounded as he walked away, the oil still fresh on his brow. The world around him seemed different, as if the very air had changed. The prophecy weighed heavily on his mind, yet he couldn't deny the strange fire kindling within him. As Saul journeyed home, the signs unfolded just as Samuel had foretold. He met men by Rachel's tomb who told him the donkeys were found. Another group offered him bread, and finally, as he approached Gibeah, a band of prophets came down from the high place, playing instruments and prophesying. The Spirit of the Lord descended upon Saul with such force that he began to prophesy with them, his voice blending with theirs in a chorus of divine utterances. Those who knew Saul were astounded. "Is Saul also among the prophets?" they whispered, shocked by the transformation in the man they had always known. The time had come for Samuel to reveal the chosen king to the people. He called for a great assembly at Mizpah, where all of Israel gathered, anxious and expectant. Samuel stood before the multitude, his voice echoing across the valley as he recounted how the Lord had delivered them from Egypt and all their enemies. But now they had rejected God as their king and asked for a man to rule over them. Samuel conducted the selection by casting lots among the tribes of Israel. The tension was palpable as the lot fell on the tribe of Benjamin. Within Benjamin, the lot fell on the family of Matri, and finally on Saul, son of Kish. But when the people searched for Saul, he was nowhere to be found. Panic spread through the crowd as they searched for Saul. Whispers of confusion and doubt filled the air. Where was the man anointed to be their king? Samuel sought the Lord, who revealed that Saul had hidden himself among the baggage. The image of their future king, hiding in fear, left the people bewildered. When they brought Saul out, he stood head and shoulders above everyone else. The people gasped, seeing in Saul the very image of a king. "Long live the king!" they shouted, their voices echoing through the hills. Yet, beneath the cheers, a sense of unease lingered in the hearts of many. Saul's first test as king came swiftly. The Ammonites, led by their ruthless king Nahash, besieged the city of Jabesh-Gilead, threatening to gouge out the right eye of every man. The elders of Jabesh pleaded for mercy, asking for 7 days to seek help. When the news reached Saul, he was plowing in the field. The Spirit of the Lord came upon him mightily, filling him with righteous anger. He took a yoke of oxen, cut them into pieces, and sent the pieces throughout Israel with a warning, "Whoever does not follow Saul and Samuel, so shall it be done to his oxen." The people rallied behind Saul, mustering an army of 330,000 men. They marched through the night and launched a surprise attack at dawn, utterly defeating the Ammonites. The victory was complete, and Saul's leadership was solidified in the eyes of the people, but shadows of doubt still lingered, both in Saul's heart and among the people.